When a group of your students meet, how would you recommend we spend our time together? Well, there are actually groups that meet regularly in different parts of the world, and usually they listen to or watch a recording of a talk or a meditation, live meditation recording. And that's good. And then to spend some time in silence together. Don't overdo it. Just a few minutes sitting together in silence. Occasionally gazing, occasionally is a beautiful thing. Look at just for a couple of minutes or 5 minutes. Don't overdo it. And it's not a competition, because then it's staring. And then the problem may start when you start talking in a group. Because as we saw these videos last night, when you bypass the mind, it's easier to connect with people. Kim has if I may say so, has a wonderful relationship with her mother. The reason is, or perhaps the main reason is, that Kim has forgotten most of her Chinese and her mother doesn't speak English. So with the mind out of the way, it's easy to have a lovely relationship. There's nothing to discuss. No problems. So you may notice the moment you open your mouth with another human being or in a group, something and another energy comes in. It's something, a very strong pull, a stream of thought. And that begins the moment you utter a sentence. It can, unless you're rooted in presence, it can pull you immediately out of presence, and then you're in the mind. Well, I think you're wrong, because I think... No, that's not how it is. What you should do is, I'm telling you. And then he said, you'll never guess what he did then. And then he said... So what does a group do? Some groups are still just get together in silence, and that's fine. But it's good to actually try out the communication through language also, so that you can practice being present while you speak. So if a member of the group has a problem with practice in their personal lives, applying presence, or telling the group where they lose presence, and then inviting some feedback, and that can be a good thing. A group works well if there's one person who is more deeply rooted in presence perhaps than the others. Then that person can, I sometimes use the expression, that person can hold the frequency of presence for the whole group while they are discussing something and so on. So if the group has a frequency holder, or you could also designate a person, every time you get together, designate a different person in that group, and this person is the one who is not going to talk, who is going to just sit there and in that state of presence. You wouldn't choose a beginner who has just joined the group and doesn't really know yet what it's all about, but somebody who already is familiar with presence and knows what it means to to hold the frequency of presence for the group. You could have other devices. You could experiment with things like the frequency holder. When the frequency holder notices that the group's conversation has degenerated into ego, he could ring a bell, or that one, and then everybody could stop talking for a minute and look around. In the early 20th century, the spiritual teacher called Gurdjieff would sometimes use his stop technique, similar to this, when his students were gathered together, talking to each other. He would sometimes come into the room, or if he was in the room already, would suddenly get up and say, "Stop!" And if they were engaged they had to stop in whatever position they were in. I don't know for how long, a few minutes perhaps. So you could see these people in different positions. And he did that in order to help his students to, what he called it, self-remembrance. And by which he didn't mean remembering the story of yourself, but really meaning remembering your presence. Self-remembrance. So that can be an interesting thing, to suddenly interrupt whatever you're doing and you go, that does bring presence. And what it interrupts is the mind stream. It suddenly cuts it. And then you notice how powerful the mind stream can be. So you can experiment. A group should have different, I believe, listening to a talk or watching a talk is fine. Then a period of stillness, which you may call meditation. And then some groups may even want to practice movement for a while, as presence through movement practices can be very helpful. You can watch a Kim's video too, and then you bring in that so that not everybody's sitting all the time, and so you bring presence arises through that, and then finally engage in some conversation. And you'll have to be, that is the most difficult part, the most challenging part, but it should also be attempted. Yeah.